Thanks for visiting the Finding Kultur channel. Our topic today is Plato on being and the neo-philosophy. I am Gutul, G-U-T-U-L. Gutul is Gutulao in Chinese. It is from the two characters Gu and the Tu that we come up with the logo to the right, which is made of the upside down Gu and Tu into a perfect square or a perfect circle. Plato on being and the neo-philosophy is the fourth topic in the Gutul series. The first three topics are Laozi on Daoist, Buddha on Heart Sutra, and God on the Bible. The 24th World Congress of Philosophy, hosted by Beijing University, was held in Beijing in August 2018. It offered many valuable opportunities for interacting with renowned scholars from prestigious Chinese universities. When the subject of what is being was raised, their immediate and unanimous answer was 存在, or to exist, and 是, or to be. Ontology, a study of being, is uniformly translated as 本体论 in Chinese. The Chinese translations of being and ontology as 存在, 是, 本体论, as will be explained later, represent both misunderstandings and mistranslations. Well, being is a foreign word and a concept to Chinese. As Western philosophers have struggled mightily with being over the past 2,000 years, it would be quite unreasonable to expect their Chinese counterparts to fare better. Let's start with Plato, who famously said in SOPHIST that we thought we knew what we meant by the expression being, but now we are perplexed. Plato went on to say, we must reawaken our understanding of the questions. 1. What is being? 2. What is it for something to be? To restate Plato's two questions about being in more modern and clearer language, we are simply asking 1. What is X being? For example, what is human being? What is God being? 2. What is being X? For example, what is being human? And what is being God? Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle had profound influence on Western philosophy. Laozi and Buddha were somewhat their contemporaries. But on the subject of being, one has to give it to Martin Heidegger and his magnum opus, Being and Time, a classic every serious philosopher has to read and hopefully also truly understands. Being and Time is one of the most difficult to read and difficult to understand books in philosophy, and it is considered incomplete as Martin Heidegger himself ends the book with this riddle. Is there a way which leads from primordial time to the meaning of being? Does time itself manifest itself as the horizon of being? Well, don't feel bad if you have no idea what this riddle means and how to answer it. You are not alone. It exemplifies the kind of statements one gets from philosophers like Heidegger, who made up dozens of names and terms to explain two simple things, being and time, which, as we will show, are unnecessary redundancies, philosophically and scientifically, respectively. For example, Heidegger coined many beings in Being and Time. We'll let you read through them yourself. Few philosophers, if any, in the world dare to claim full comprehension of Heidegger's Being and Time, and even Heidegger himself deems Being and Time unfinished. That is why there have been no sequels or closures to the unfinished Being and Time until Couture published this book, Being and Time, A Closure, on Amazon.com. This table is from the Couture's book, and it is included here just to show that indeed Couture brought a closure to Heidegger's Being and Time. There are no complex, difficult, or fancy words, terms, or phrases in Being and Time, A Closure. None in this video either. Clear and clean tables will be used to depose and define each and every foundational term and concept. We will hold off a little bit to clearly and cleanly define what being is philosophically and scientifically. We will first try to define what the universe is philosophically and scientifically. The universe is made of substance and space, the latter of which is actually a property space, since space made of force fields is where substance acquires its properties. Regardless of the absence or presence of us human beings, the observers, the universe is made of nothing more and nothing less than substance and property scientifically, and X being as itself and X being in itself philosophically, where X is a variable or a placeholder to which one can put in its place whatever that comes to his her head, and X is the Heideggerian entity. It is actually a Heideggerian mistake to equate being to entity. Once we human beings emerge on Earth, an infinitesimally small object in the immense universe, for infinitesimally short duration in the very long history of the universe, we human beings become obsessed with our infinitesimally empty conscious world in our little heads, which are filled, as we believe so, with very, very big ideas. The faithful in biocentrism even believes that what is in our heads or consciousness is the origin and the driving force of our universe. To understand the human conscious world, the only philosophically and physically important and legitimate subjects are our consciousness or thought of X being as itself, and our consciousness or thought of X being in itself, as it is clearly established that our consciousness or thought is physical and is made of substance and space, the latter of which, as already explained, is actually a property space. So the philosophical our consciousness of X being as itself and our consciousness of X being in itself correspond to the physical substance and property aspects of our consciousness of X being respectively. Therefore, the only terms and concepts that will be used and discussed in this video to understand and define being are X being as itself, X being in itself, our consciousness of X being as itself, and our consciousness of X being in itself, where X is a variable, for example, time, space, substance, sight, sound, scent, taste, touch, thought, logic, mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, plant, animal, human, self versus other, good versus evil, God, Allah, and Buddha. From the first three topics in the Gutur series, 1. Laozi on Daoist, 2. Buddha on Heart Sutra, and 3. God on the Bible, you probably already know what being is. Being is nothing but a name or a label. It is the name in what Lao says. The name that comes to our heads is not an eternal name. It is the name in what Buddhism and Hinduism call name and form and namarupa, respectively. Laozi also calls the being the named or Dao, the non-being the nameless or Da or Da Dao. Laozi also says all matters made of substance and space are from the nameless. All beings and names coming to our heads are from the named. Quite clearly, Eastern thinkers like Laozi and Buddha, living about 1 to 2 centuries before Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, already understood what being was, long before the Greek trio was still perplexed by it. We, however, do not know why such a clear and clean definition and understanding of being got lost in the fields of Eastern and Western philosophies. For over 2,000 years, modern-day Chinese philosophers sadly cannot even get being and ontology translated correctly. Since being is a name or mean in Chinese, ontology is 名学 or 明学. We now define being as follows. X being is that which is named X. X being as itself is the material or substantial aspect of that which is named X. X being in itself is the natural, spatial, or property aspect of that which is named X. Our consciousness of X being as itself is the material or substantial aspect of our consciousness of that which is named X. And our consciousness of X being in itself is the natural, spatial, or property aspect of our consciousness of that which is named X. Plato Aristotle being is grounded on a substance versus attribute conceptual structure, along with the Cartesian subject versus object conceptual structure of being. It has dominated Western philosophy from Plato, Aristotle, to Descartes to Kant. In this structure, X being as itself is substance of an object. X being in itself is property of an object. Our consciousness of X being as itself is substance of a subject's thought. Our consciousness of X being in itself is property of a subject's thought. Note that we can remove all the beings in the above two tables, and there is absolutely no effect on what the tables mean to say. Therefore, being is not only just a name or a label, but also an unnecessary convenience or redundancy in our language and in philosophy. So, being is an unnecessary redundancy in language and philosophy because X being equals X equals being X. And time is a necessary redundancy in mathematics and physics because time is change, is nature of substance. Therefore, space-time is space change, is space substance, is the universe. We will delve into greater detail in the second part of this talk. Here is a clue for finding Gutur. Bye-bye.